Okay, hey everyone, welcome to our workshop after a very long time. This workshop we're going to build Amazon backend basically, not to the extent that it is currently today, but to an extent where it feels like an e-commerce backend. We've split this session, this workshop into 2 days, right? The first day is going to be all about the basics about GraphQL and stuff. Maybe we will also touch up a little bit on MongoDB. We'll also have a little bit hands-on on day one as well, where we're going to set up a simple GraphQL server. Okay. Once that is done, in the second day, it's going to be completely 100% hands-on. We're going to build the backend in GraphQL itself. Okay. Before we get started, if you are familiar with GraphQL, do comment in there. I think someone just subscribed. Thank you. Make your runs on. Okay. Hello, Kiran. Okay. And speaking of someone being subscribed, we are just one more subscriber away from hitting 400. Who would like to be the 400th one? Just click on the subscribe button. Yeah, and again, if you have not done yet, if you're someone new to Duolearn, watching our first live workshop, do go ahead and subscribe because we are planning to post a ton of videos on how to better improve your skills as a developer and learning new skills, exploring new technology, all that stuff. Yeah, so if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe. Okay, we have hit 400. Awesome. Cool. So let's get started, right? Um, okay. So what is GraphQL and why do we need or why do we even need that stuff, right? So I'm just gonna go head over to graphql.org, which is the official website of GraphQL. Really, GraphQL is something that's created by Facebook. Like many of the awesome tech they have created, like React, Docusaurus, a bunch of other things they have created, right? And they have open sourced it. GraphQL is one among them. Okay, GraphQL in itself is not a technology, you can say, but it's more like a specification on how you can implement your own GraphQL server. Okay. Why do we need GraphQL? Okay. The basic need for GraphQL is to query data. Okay. So you have your application and you have a server. You want to get some data from your server, right? Okay. Will increase my audio volume. Someone has asked it in the comments. Hopefully this should be enough. Okay. Cool. So, as I was saying, GraphQL is something that you use to query data or manipulate data on your website, on your web app, right? So, what makes GraphQL special? What makes GraphQL special is that it's the results you can get are very predictable. You know what you're going to get. You have that control over what you can receive or stuff like that, which is traditionally not possible with REST APIs. Okay. Now REST APIs is something that has been around for a while. I just fixed my audio. It seems like it's still not very audible. I'll just increase it more. Hopefully, this is better. Let me just check if there's something else I can do. All right, so it is at its maximum actually. I hope it's better now. Do let me know. Okay, thank you, Manish. Okay, let's get back. The main reason everyone loves GraphQL are mostly the front-end developers, right? Because the traditional APIs like REST, there are a bunch of problems associated with it. One problem that comes right off to everyone is that multiple endpoints thing. Okay. So what that means is that let's say you have a website. Let's take Amazon itself, which is the backend we're going to build. So there are a lot of things going on in an Amazon website. You open the website, you see bunch of stuff. You see all the products being listed down. You see all the categories. You see all the stuff you have in your cart. You see the recommendations. All of these things you see. Now, what troubles front-end development with this is you have to remember a lot of these endpoints, okay? Endpoints are essentially URLs which give you a particular set of data, okay? So let's see. What I mean by that is, so if you want to fetch products, you would need to remember an API, something like this, okay? Let's say you have a website called backend or amazon.com. This is your base URL. So you have to remember this slash products. So you will know that if you go to slash products, you'll get products. So when your products evolve, when your entities evolve in your application, these URLs keep stacking up. And as this keeps stacking up, if you do not document it, it's going to be a lot of burden for the developers to build on top of. Okay. So that's another thing, right? The documentation is not something that comes out of the box with REST. Now, uh, the comparison between GraphQL and REST are not on the same level because they are not exactly of the same type. GraphQL is something that you do on your application layer level, okay? While REST is just an architectural style. What architectural style means that how you can design your API. Okay. Like for example, how we just told that on slash products, you should get your products. Huh? Right. So what REST tells you is that you can also how to insert products, how to fetch products, how to fetch a specific product, all those things. REST helps you define it basically. It gives you a particular architecture on how you should define all your URLs and how should they perform or what they should perform. Okay, how they perform, that's up to you. You can write however the backend logic you want on how it should perform like that. What REST does is what should do what basically. Okay, now that's out of the way. Then what GraphQL allows you to do is you will only have one endpoint, something like this, where you can do everything you want to do. Okay, so this is where GraphQL differs at at a very high level. It gives you one single endpoint where you can query and manipulate everything in your system. Now let's take a look what I mean by that. So in order to do that, I'm going to use something that's already there. Okay, some GraphQL API that's already made available for everyone in the public to use. I'm going to search for one such API is SpaceX API. Now, obviously, this is not something, I believe this is not something officially SpaceX itself created, but there is a way we can access this. Yep. Let's see. Yep, can you find this? Okay. Let's find something that's based out of Apollo. Let me quickly grab the URL from my notes if I have that. It seems to be have been down or not available anymore. So, okay, let's search for public GraphQL API. Okay, so we have bunch of here. Goes to studio. Let's see this one. We'll just use this Star Wars API. Awesome. So you can see this is something called an explorer. Okay, an explorer is usually comes with a particular implementation of GraphQL itself. What that means is, in the beginning, I said that GraphQL is more like a specification on top of which people build their GraphQL servers. So obviously building it from the scratch using GraphQL specs can be very daunting and time taking, okay, time consuming. So we have things like Apollo, Yoga, other things, which help you create these GraphQL servers very easily and quickly. So I'll just go with Apollo server, okay, Apollo GraphQL server. So this is one project that is built on top of GraphQL specification. So you can take advantage of those specifications. Okay. So this is open source. So I'm assuming this is also built on top of that. Cool. So what really differentiates this GraphQL from traditional API or REST APIs is the ready documentation that is available. So you can see here on the left hand side, I have these sort of things that looks like functions. Okay, all films, all people, all planets, all of these things. They look like some sort of function, right? So then you have something over defined here as films collection, that if you are familiar with functions, that kind of looks like a return type, right? So I'll just click on it. Let's just click on it and see what I have here. So I have here arguments. Obviously, a function can have arguments, right? What you can pass on to. Then you have fields. So fields are essentially what is returned from this document. So let's start writing a query in GraphQL. Okay. So in order to do that, you have to specify that you want to query, and you can open these braces. Okay. And then you can write the name of the function here. I'm just going to call it function for now. Okay. There's a particular term for it. We'll get to that. So I'll just say all films. I do this. You can see it automatically open braces for me. So you can select the fields you want. So okay, I'll just select films, and in that films, I'll just take. Is there a title for it? Yeah, it's a title. So let's run this. See what we get. Double check this URL. Yes, continue. Okay, you can see here the data we have received. So it says all films, all films. Under all films, we want films. We have films. Under films, we have title. So this is again a very differentiating factor, right? You get to select what you want to fetch. This helps you reduce what's also called as overfetching. On overfetching, what happens, you once you specify a specific route, you get a bunch of data that you do not necessarily use it in your front end. So with GraphQL, you can just select the data you want and use it to do whatever you want in the UI. What else you have? We have ID, we have director, all those things we have here. Now, these things like all films, these are called resolvers. Okay, resolvers are something that give you a particular data back. Essentially, in the backend, they are just functions giving you or spitting out some data. When we get a little bit of hands-on, we will see how this all films query translates into data we see on the right hand side here. Let's do a little more queries here. So there's one more thing called as named queries. You can name your query what you want. Okay, I'll just say, I'll name this query, right? Films with just names. So this query will only give me all the films, but it will only have the title. Okay. So let's write another query here. So this one will give me with just director. So, so in this Explorer, in order to execute one of the queries, you can select the query here. You can see that query changes the name here. And if once you click on it, you get to see all the films, but only the director. So this is called named queries. So when you're using an Explorer like this, you can name your operation or query and call it differently, right? Now let's see how we can use arguments. So let's explore all films. What do we have here? We have after, which is a string, before is a string, first is an int, last is an int. So I have no idea what that means. So what I'll do is, let's see if there is documentation for this. Okay, there isn't much docs on how to use those fields, but we do know that they are what their type is. Okay, let's see if we can work with that. Okay, I think first means how many first set of films you want. So I'm just gonna put here all films, I believe. Yeah, first is going to be uh, let's say a 10. I'll remove it from here. We'll get back to what these variables are. So I think I only got first 10, and in the first 10, I think we only have 6 of the movies. First 6 movies. First, okay, let's try 3. Okay, we got the first 3 of Star Wars movies. So that's how you can use the specified arguments in your GraphQL queries. Now you can see that this is sort of hard code here, but what if you want to, in your application, you want to specify that number, okay? You can then use query variables, okay, or operation variables. So in order to define a variable, you will use the dollar sign like this, and you write the name of the variable, and you want to specify the data type. Okay, once that is done, you will pass this variable inside your actual query, which is going to be instead of the number 3 here. Okay, and in since this is an explorer, you can specify what is the value you want to give here. Okay, this thing is blocking me actually. Okay, so I'll give 3 here. Let's see if this still works. Yep, we still got the first 3 Star Wars movies properly. Okay, so once there's query, there's also something called mutations. The mutations are generally not available in public API routes because ideally they would not want you to modify or tamper with their data existing. Some can still have, which will probably not alter the actual database, or even if it does, it's not something that would affect other people. But yeah, since we do not have a mutation here, we'll just leave it at that. So yeah, let's also see what a mutation is, right? So whenever you're dealing with a system, you ideally want to do two things. Either you want to read data or modify data. Okay. The modify can also come under. either adding data or modifying some existing data. So those two things are considered query and mutations in general GraphQL, right? Query is something, as it just says, you want to just query something, right? You want to query some data, you want to get some data. That's what query means. Then you have mutations. Mutations is where you add data or manipulate data or insert data. All that stuff happens under mutations. Now we do not have a mutation over here, like I told you for the obvious reasons. But when we're building our own Apollo server, we're going to have a few mutations to just demonstrate how it works, right? So that's a little bit out hands-on on how you can consume GraphQL APIs. Basically, you can write queries and stuff like this. Okay, now let's see how we can build a server like this. Okay, where a server with all these functions, all this data returning, with this little playground. Let's see how we can build that. Okay, now to build this, I hope that you have Node.js installed. You can quickly verify if you have it by doing node -v. I have Node version 16. It's a little bit old, but this will suffice for this workshop. And a code editor would be also nice. I suggest using VS Code, which is free. And if, yeah, you can use VS Code. And if you're comfortable with any other IDEs or code editors like Atom, WebStorm, feel free to use them. I'll be using VS Code for this session. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is get into my workshops repository where I keep all the codes related to workshop. And I'm going to create a new folder over here. I'll call it Apollo server demo. CD over to it. Now, if you do not have, if you're on Windows, just you can just open wherever you want in your file explorer, and you can also still do the same. Okay, there's a question. Should we execute it parallelly? I would suggest, yeah, why not? You can do it with me or even after the workshop. It's really up to you, up to your style of learning. If you're someone who wants to do it along with me, that's great. If you want to do it after I have done, rewatch the video, that's still great. Okay, up to you. Okay, now that I am inside here, Apollo server demo. And if you're on Windows, I want you to open a shell here, either PowerScript, PowerShell, I think, or command prompt. Either of them should do the job. Once you open that in your expected folder, what you should do is should run this command npm init. What this does is it helps us set up a simple Node.js project. Well, at least initiates a Node.js project. Okay, so I'll just press enter on to everything. Okay, if you don't want to press enter to everything, you can also do npm -y, which will automatically say yes to everything and initiate a node project. So I'm going to open this repository in code dot. So if this doesn't work, you can open this particular folder by right clicking on it and select open in Visual Studio Code. Cool. So I can do this. Okay, it opened in my other screen, I think. Let me uh, pull it over to this one. There it is. Cool. So we have it here, simple project with a package.json. I will not go into deep what this is. If you're watching this, I am hoping you are aware of what it is. Cool. So I'll just open up a terminal inside this project, which already is open here. So we just need a couple of dependencies to get our Apollo server started. Okay. So first thing we need is npm install GraphQL package itself. Okay. And yeah, you also need Apollo server, so which you can get it like this. So there are other server implementations of GraphQL other than Apollo, but this is something I've used in a lot of projects and most familiar with, and also something that is also widely used. So you wouldn't really go wrong using any of them. They're might be slight differences, but since they all follow same GraphQL specifications, you won't have to worry much. Okay, let's install this. As it gets installed, I'll just create a folder here called src. So this is where we're going to keep all of our code inside. Okay. All right. Cool. So I'm going to create index.js at the top level. So this is where our GraphQL server will be basically be the entry point to it. Okay. So yeah, we have this set up. Okay. Now we will do something called, we create a file called type.def.js. This is mostly the documentation part we saw here. Okay, let me show. So here, all this stuff you see, right? What all films is, what all people function is, what is this data type, all of these things. Basically, like a type definition. Right? So again, GraphQL, since it is a type architecture, or sorry, not like a layer. Let's consider it a layer. And so what again typed means is that you have specific types defined to every query, every field, every return value, everything. You have everything typed. Okay, nothing is like dynamic over here. So we're going to create a type def first. In order to do that, we have to first import GraphQL schema. Okay, so it's gonna do const type defs, create a schema with backticks like this. So since we're building something like an Amazon thing, we will create one simple interface called product. Okay, type product. Let's see what we can have inside our product. So something like a type is here, like films connection. So this is also a type. Films collection is a type here. So we're defining something like this over here. So what do we have in our product? We can have an ID, which is an integer. We can have a name, which is a string. Let's also have one boolean. Let's call it is in stock. It's going to be a boolean. Okay. Once you have this, so you have a type of entity, right? Now you want a resolver. Again, a resolver is basically a query or function that you can either use to fetch data or manipulate data. So here we have all films resolver, right? Let's create one resolver also. Creating a resolver is quite like similar as well, but you don't do it here itself. Okay, we'll put it inside a different file. I'll call this resolvers. Okay, so resolver is going to look something like this. So we call one main query. So on that query, we're going to put all of our resolvers that we use to get data or specific item in a data. So I'll call this products and just going to return an empty array for now. Okay. Okay, and yeah, so we have a resolver. Just having this function and this object is not enough. We have to define it in our type defs as well. So it's going to look something like this. Inside our query resolver, we have products, which will return an array of product. So this is how we define it. Query and the name of products, and what is going to return. It's going to return an array of product. So this should be obviously a type as well. Okay, cool. So we have this. You can write comments here inside GraphQL using hash character. Uh, I'll just type for a product, which is very obvious. So just to demonstrate that you can have comments like this. Okay. Okay, we have this. Let's export this. Module.exports equals type defs. So this means that if I import this file in another file, I'll get this type defs string as a default import. I'll also do the same here. Module.exports resolvers. Okay, so we have a type definition of a server and resolver also. So it's now time to create our server, our GraphQL server. Okay. Let's do one more thing. Instead of returning an empty array, let's return some basic array we have. Let's create a basic array of product. So we have ID, we have name. Let's call it product one, and we have is in stock. It's going to be true. I'll create a couple more. Two and three. Let's try this false. And instead of returning empty array here, we'll return products. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so we have resolvers, we have type def. Cool. Let's import them in our index. Const resolvers equals to require src resolvers, and similarly we'll also have our type defs. Okay, once you have that, you can then import Apollo server. Require Apollo server. The exact name should be, yeah, Apollo server itself. So we create a server like this. Server equals to new, I think, Apollo server, and you have to pass the. Let me check if there's any comments, questions. Okay, no questions seems. Yeah, so if you do have any questions at any points, just stop it in the live chat. So it takes two arguments. What are the definitions you want to have in your uh, Apollo server, and then resolvers. Okay, once we have done that, we have to create a standalone server. So I believe there should be a function for that as well. Standalone server. Let me check it quickly on Google. Apollo start standalone. Okay, it's a different import. All right, let's try this. In const, just give the required first so it can give me an auto suggestion. Standalone. Start standalone server. So we see Apollo standalone server, to which we will assign our server, standalone server. And to this you have to pass in the server you just created. It will be like this. Good. So once you have that, let's see what we have to do. You get URL as well. Yeah, I guess that's it, and our server gets started. Can assign a promise here, like a promise, then do this because this is a promise, which means it's not something that will be executed immediately, essentially. So just put in then to whenever the server starts. So just put log server started. So we'll also define the port. Let's say 6003. Cool. Now if you run this file, our GraphQL server should start on 6003 port with the following type def and following resolver. Okay, now let's try this. I head over back to terminal. I'll do node index.js. As we have a name, so it says we have something defined in our resolver but not in schema. Let's see, what is that? We have products here, and what do we have here? Okay, I think there was a typo. Let's quickly fix that and try it now. Server started. Let's head over to localhost 6003 to see if it's actually running up there. So I'll do localhost 6003. And yes, we have ourselves an Apollo server running. Awesome. Let's see. You can see we have our products over here, just like how they had in Star Wars API, all films. We have our own resolver here now with products. So let's see what happens if you run this example query. We get all the IDs of the products. Let's get more. I want name. I want if it is in stock as well. Awesome. I got that as well. Now, uh, as discussed, let's also go ahead and add our own resolver to add product. Any questions till now? Yeah, there seems to be one question. I'll just read it out. My prettier shows up an error saying type aliases can only be used in TypeScript files.ts. Hmm. Type aliases. Okay, I'm not sure where it's probably showing you that. We are not using anything TypeScript here. Uh, let's see where you could possibly be getting that. Hmm. Not sure where you're having that issue, but do drop in your code with code snapshot in your Discord, yeah, and one of us will get back to you. Okay, now that's out of the way. Let's go ahead and create a mutation to add product. Okay, so we defined something like we defined the query itself. I call it mutation. Mutation. Yeah, we'll call the mutation add product. It takes in a product and it just does products dot push product, and what it does is it returns the product. Put a comma here, and yeah, silence that thing. Good. Now we have the definition. Uh, type def.js file. Make sure you have this backtick here. Okay, backtick should be next to your escape key. So this whole thing should be in backtick. I'm guessing you do not have a backtick here, and so it's trying to see if, to define a type. Okay, that's probably the problem, Vishal. Okay, so now we have to define this in our type definitions. I'll go over here and I'll do type mutation, add products. Add product will take a product input and will return a product. So when you want product, yeah. So when you want to use typed input, right? You have to also define it. It's will probably not a type itself. So we'll just take a look at the docs real quick. Notations. All right, we'll go ahead with having our direct variables. Okay, so that means is you'll have ID string and you can have a name string. So a string can also have is in stock, which is going to be a boolean. From right, we should have a dollar here. Quickly check it. Yeah, this is inside fetching, right? Okay, we're inside Apollo client, so should be inside Apollo server. And here under resolvers, we can see how we can do this. And let's go at ID. Okay, it's not required to have a dollar. Okay, now the type def is a little bit changed. What we will do is we'll also have to change our resolver to match this. So it's going to be an ID, name, and is in stock. Okay, we'll pass it along the push here like this, and we will return we'll just return true. Okay, so just change back this to boolean. Now you can also add this exclamatory to make it say what required. Okay, now let's see if everything is in place by restarting our server. Yeah, yes, Visha, you should put those backticks. Maybe start this server and go back. Yep, we have a mutation here. Okay, let's execute this mutation. So this is how you can do that. You can do mutation like this. Give the keyword mutation and use it. Add product. Okay, so just type all of this for me. Was this just doing all this? Just we'll just name this mutation as well. Add Just call it add for now. Zoom it in a little. Yep. And it even put the variables over here. This is interesting. Okay. The product ID is going to be 4, and the product IDs should be string, it seems. Okay. String name is going to be product 4, and is it in stock? Let's give it false. Let's try to run this. Okay, we got true. And let's see what happens if I try to fetch all the products. ID name is in stock. We have an error here. It's false. String cannot represent value. Let's see. Let's see what we did wrong here while pushing. I think we have done something untrue. Send value. This value is coming inside a string, it seems. Okay, let's change this signature over here. ID is going to be an int. Let's also console log this just to make sure we're getting the values properly. Okay, let's restart the server and try this again. Okay, let's check the console. We have ID name, everything proper. Okay, is in stock. This is probably what's the issue. And ID is also, yeah. So, see why this is happening. ID name is in stock. ID name is in stock, in stock, stock. It looks correct over here, but everything is under name for some reason. Ah, my bad. So yeah, the mutations do not exactly represent the variables that you pass directly. What happens is the first thing is considered, I believe, is a uh, parent or context, basically parent node or something. The second thing is data, and third one is something else. Okay, so all of the stuff that we pass to this resolver is under this second argument data. So what we'll do is we'll just put it directly inside our product stuff push like this. Okay. So since I'm not using this first variable, I'm just putting it underscore to access the second one. Okay, let's restart the server. Okay, I'm gonna add again. Working fine. Let's try this. Awesome. So this is working as well. All right. So that's mostly what I wanted to cover in this workshop. Yeah. So the next thing is that we'll just attach MongoDB to this and a little 5 to 15 minutes of introduction to it in the next class. So this is going to be the agenda for the next class. Then once we have established the usage and working of MongoDB, we'll go ahead and integrate into our server. Okay, now, cool. That's mostly it for this one. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the live chat and I will answer it for you. Yeah, I can also will share this code base to you guys. All right, see you guys tomorrow. Take care.